Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd. These are the names of three people whom you've probably heard about in the past few months. Their wrongful deaths have sparked global outrage and national protests for the Black Lives Matter movement. Hi, I'm Ian Mikesell, and today I'm going to be talking about why you're hearing about so many protests and how you can be a part of the solution in addressing these racial injustices. The discrimination that African Americans still see today is often described as systemic racism. The origins of systemic racism lie in slavery, but it is the institutions that have been reluctant to change that allow it to continue today. While discrimination against the Black community can be seen in many aspects of society, today I'm just going to be talking about the criminal justice system, which includes policing, the judicial system, and the incarcerations and sentences that Black Americans are seeing today. As Buckeyes, it's important to recognize we are part of a diverse community, and while not all of us may have experienced the things I'm going to be talking about today firsthand, it is important for us all to recognize the problem and to use our platform to be part of a national change so that we can work towards the betterment of society, not just for our African American peers, but for the betterment of our entire community. Most often, the first encounter anyone has with the criminal justice system is with the police, and there's no exception there with the injustices that African Americans see. In a study conducted about our own city of Columbus, it has been shown that since 2013, around 50% of all use of force incidents between police and citizens have been against Black people. Now, Black people only make up 28% of the city's population, which suggests that policemen are targeting and being more aggressive when they stop Black people rather than if they had been white. This kind of disparity is not only seen in Columbus, however, it has been shown through many studies to be present in other cities and states across the nation. After policing comes the judicial system, where citizens are faced with the court's judgment, a judgment where discrimination has been seen since the founding of our country. In a paper published by Harvard and Stanford professors, they found that public opinion shows most citizens do not feel like the justice system is free of racial bias. This opinion is supported by a study conducted by the U.S. Sentencing Committee, which found that African Americans on average receive sentences that are 19.1% longer than their similarly situated white peers. This is even after controlling for variables such as criminal history and age. Following the judge and jury's decision comes sentencing and incarceration. Despite being shown to commit crimes at a rate fairly consistent with white citizens, Blacks are largely overrepresented in today's prison system, which has grown exponentially in the past 40 years. While they only make up for 13% of the population, they account for almost 38% of the 2.2 million people in the U.S. prison system today. This imbalance can be credited partly to the injustices I've previously talked about in policing and the judicial system, but also comes down to how often Blacks are being sentenced. The Massachusetts Sentencing Commission found that the state imprisons Black defendants 8 times more than white defendants, which is a trend seen in other states as well. These disparities have led to 1 in 13 Blacks being disenfranchised, which is a rate 4 times more than any other race. This extremely hurts their ability to properly participate in the democracy because so much of their representation has been denied the right to vote. The democracy is supposed to give everyone the voice to advocate for their communities, but it's denying the Black community the right to do this. While racial discrimination is still widespread in today's society, there are many nonprofit organizations that work to further progress towards solutions to these issues. One such nonprofit is the Sentencing Project. They conduct research on all aspects of racial injustices in America, and their goal is, by producing this groundbreaking research, they wish to promote reforms in sentencing policy, addressing unjust racial disparities and practices, and to advocate for alternatives to incarceration. In 2019 alone, the Sentencing Project was cited by over 1,100 media outlets, which shows how widespread their reach is in educating Americans across the country. As Buckeyes, the biggest way we can help work towards a solution is by recognizing the problems that our black friends face and deciding to support these nonprofits. These organizations are doing work on a large scale to educate more Americans that are not as fortunate as us to have access to such high quality education. That is why I'm asking you to donate as much as you can comfortably afford to the Sentencing Project so that we can be a part of the change. I also recognize we are college students and do not yet have much to our name, but I promise you any amount will help expand the reach of the Sentencing Project, which in turn will help shift public opinion enough to start seeing real changes on a national level. I hope you'll support them. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and here are my sources.